This Organized Chaos video is brought to you by viewers like you. Thank you.
Okay, I saw people were asking about Chapek. So let's go ahead and check out the Chapek thing. I'm sure he's going to have a cringe angle.
The more
on this
things
one.
change, the more they stay the same. And truly, no company exemplifies this seemingly nonsensical proverb quite like Disney, whose creative and financial decisions over the past 5 years or so remind me of a fading pop star making increasingly ridiculous attempts to reinvent themselves without understanding why people are losing interest in the first place. Case in point, the retirement of Bob Iger as head of the company back in 2020 after 15 years in the role, during which he basically made it his mission to swallow up every studio and IP on the market. Because if you can't come up with good ideas of your own, just buy someone else's. Lucasfilm, Pixar, Marvel, 20th Century Fox, all of them
And they've all been pretty successful, so...
were assimilated into the Disney collective. They were a bit like the Borg from Star Trek, only more sinister and less creative. His approach might have been ruthless and relentless conglomeration, but fuck me, it was undeniably effective. The MCU under Disney's influence became a box office juggernaut, Pixar began churning out a steady stream of financial hits, and Lucasfilm... well, they were there. Anyway, the point is the company exploded into some kind of Lovecraftian monster under his leadership.
It's always been a fairly big Lovecraftian monster. Disney is not a small company. It's gotten bigger for sure, but it's never been a small company. And under Iger, it blew up, yeah.
With its slimy tendrils extending into practically every major entertainment property in Hollywood. But this golden age could not last, and gradually it became obvious that something was rotten in the state of Disney. Along with the massive increase in revenue came an influx of soulless parasites. People with, shall we say, a very...
Again, can you get some more liberal faces screaming, apparently? You guys have like 2? Can we get more? I'm just asking for some variety here. You need more work. You need more stuff, man. This is ridiculous. This is uncreative.
Specific political worldview. People who saw the films and TV shows they were tasked with producing less as creative endeavours and more as conveniently large platforms from which to shout the message.
Okay, name me the property that has shouted the message, or even better yet, just tell me what the message is. What is the message? I am dying right now. Pins and needles. What is the message?
And well, these people soon began to make their mark on the company, and believe me, it wasn't a pretty one. Star Wars, under the not-so-wise stewardship of Kathleen Kennedy,
God, these guys have it so hard against Kathleen Kennedy. It's ridiculous. She's only one of the most successful film producers ever. Yeah, isn't she awful? Interview of Critical Drinker on how Hollywood ruined politics. Yeah, I can check that out. That might be a good thing to wrap up the Critical Drinker thing on.
Quickly went from one of the most popular, recognisable and profitable brands in the world to a rotting shell of its former self, with diminishing box office returns, a horribly divided fan base, and seemingly constant drama and conflict behind the scenes.
Well, Star Wars had a divided fan base kind of with the prequels. It's been kind of like that, and it's gotten worse. Last Jedi definitely made it worse, but yeah.
Even the once mighty MCU began to creak and shudder as more and more identity politics wrenches were thrown into its perfectly tuned machinery.
Identity politics messages. Okay, I want to break that down, what he's saying. The problem with Marvel is that there's less white guys in lead roles. That's his problem with Marvel. That's what he just said. There's less white guys in lead roles. That's the problem with Marvel. I mean, for fuck's sake, man.
And Bob Iger didn't just sit back and allow this shit to happen, he practically encouraged it. Why? Simple, because it made him
Because of money.
Look good. It allowed...
No, because of money. He didn't do it because it made him look good. He did it for money. I assure you, the people, the higher ups at Disney are pretty fucking conservative. They're doing it for money.
The media to write lots of flattering puff piece articles about how he was championing diversity, opening...
Well, sure. And you know what those fluff piece articles are? Those are free advertisements, which means money.
Up opportunities, elevating marginalized voices, and all the usual buzzword bullshit you expect these days.
Taki75, did you read about the Kanye interview with Alex Jones where he said that Hitler and Nazis weren't that bad? God, that wouldn't surprise me about Kanye. Jeez. Oh, yes. I saw the Guardians 3 trailer right before stream. It looks great. It looks like there might have been an Indiana Jones trailer dropped, too. I want to double check that. I can't imagine them dropping 2 trailers back-to-back like that, though. It's probably a fan thing that popped up in my feed. But, yeah. The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 looks great.
But old Bob was no fool. He was smart enough to see that problems were on the horizon and that it was time for him to get out. The problems that he'd allowed to fester and worsen during his tenure were coming to a head by the end of the 2010s, and when the unspecified virus of unknown origin came along...
COVID. It's COVID. We all know COVID. We can say COVID. I don't know if you're trying to do virus denial or if you're just... think you're funny, but it's fucking COVID.
To shut down the company's one remaining source of revenue, the theme parks, he wisely decided to...
Okay, so Indiana Jones trailer did drop too? That's cool, okay.
Get the fuck out of Dodge and let someone else pick up the pieces for him. And in this case, the chosen fall guy was Bob Chapek. Unlike his predecessor, Chapek wasn't particularly...
Fall guy? He got to run the biggest media company in the world, and he's the fall guy?
Interested in his public image. He wasn't interested in pandering to identity politics for some cheap hollow media praise or pushing the message.
Right. And that's why pretty much a lot of the media stuff... I mean, I know Chapek's thrown a bit of a fit and Iger had to call him out a bit, but for the most part, things have been running about the same under Chapek, at least on the media side. To my understanding, the theme parks were where Chapek really dropped the ball.
Just to keep the blue-haired land whales on Twitter happy. I mean, don't get me wrong, he certainly wasn't some selfless martyr willingly throwing himself under the bus for the good of the company either. But what he actually was a money man. The kind of guy who looks at the bottom line when it comes to making creative decisions. He was there to turn Disney around, to make it profitable again, and his chosen path towards that...
To make it profitable again? It was profitable when Iger left. What are you talking about?
That goal was political neutrality. There would be no more thinly veiled activism, no more weighing in on divisive political issues, no more pandering to the men.
They almost never talk about political issues in these shows. What are you talking about?
Message. I know, it sounds crazy, right? Imagine an entertainment company that just wants to produce entertainment instead of lecturing you about historical injustices and why you should feel guilty for existing, telling you how you should feel on social political issues, advocating for which political candidates you should support.
When did Disney do that? When did they do that? When did Disney do a special saying, hey, vote for Biden or whatever the fuck you're implying? I missed that.
Chapek also restructured the company's executive positions so that the studio heads and senior...
Yeah, no, that's a good point. Nothing but media. Chapek was the one who turned on DeSantis. It was true. Chapek was actually, or at least Disney was donating to DeSantis until he got in trouble for it, and then he turned from public media pressure. And the reason he turned from public media pressure is because he didn't want to lose money.
Senior managers were actually expected to perform to a good standards. There would be no more cushy 5-year...
Yeah, no, he's trying to make it out like Bob Chapek and Bob Iger were completely different in how they managed the media aspect, and I didn't see that. It seemed like Chapek might have been a little bit more right-leaning, but overall they both seemed to run it like businessmen. Like I said, to my understanding, the issue of Chapek was that he did not run the parks well.
Contracts where you could just sit back and collect a paycheck, regardless of how shit your work.
And we gotta go ahead and throw shots at Kathleen Kennedy. I am getting sick of the shots at Kathleen Kennedy. I really am. She's a legendary producer. Just fuck, man. God damn, people.
The message was clear. If you don't deliver...
I agree, Brandon. You can never, ever trust a Bob. Wait a minute.
results, then you're out the fucking door, son. Now, as you can imagine, this change of strategy didn't go down too well with certain elements of Disney's staff, who immediately went to war with Chapek. An attempt to stay neutral on a political bill in Florida that had absolutely nothing to do with Disney resulted in mass staff.
Oh. He's gonna voice support for the bill, because all these guys end up doing that. Ugh. Dude, you.
Walkouts, social media outrage, and a humiliating climb down for Chapek, where he was forced to make a grovelling video pledging his allegiance to the cults. This, ladies and gentlemen...
The cult? You mean just being pro-human rights? Yeah, what a fucking cult.
...is the face of a man held hostage by his own employees. Still, he was determined to see his plan through, and a 3-year contract extension in June 2022 seemed to indicate that the Disney board were prepared to back him all the way. It's funny how ideology takes a back seat when your own arse is on the line, isn't it? Now,
Well, it's not even your own ass, it's money. He wants to make money.
A big part of Chapek's plan to return the company to profitability was to make it leaner and more efficient, and that meant layoffs. Lots of layoffs. Because like any big company, Disney had become bloated and inefficient, filled with people occupying
So, I mean, according to Chapek, according to Drinker's analysis here, during Chapek's run since 2020, if I remember correctly, he liked Disney during 2020 and on, right? He was like, oh, this company's really doing great. They're really doing awesome. They're making all the right decisions. He didn't criticize everything they did, right? Right?
Pointless roles, making an awful lot of noise but doing very little actual work. And if I was a cynical man, I'd be willing to bet that a lot of the staff targeted for redundancy just so happened to be the loudest and most obnoxious activists who'd caused him so much trouble in Florida. If they were a cancer growing within the company, then Chapek was the
They need to get more memes, man. I'm getting sick of the same two screaming women all the time.
Surgeon sharpening his scalpel. But truly, life's got a funny way of turning things around, and wouldn't you know it, suddenly the announcement was made last night that Chapek was out and Bob Iger was returning as CEO of Disney.
No way!
Oh my goodness, who could have seen this one coming? I mean, a decision like that couldn't possibly have come at a better time for all those employees, activists, executives and studio heads that Chapek had in his crosshairs. And if you think...
Well, I mean, if the employees, he was about ready to fire employees and they got brought in Iger and he said, we aren't going to fire him, then that's good. They shouldn't be firing people. As far as why are you talking about activists? What the fuck?
For 1 second that this decision was a mutual one, then bless your heart, you sweet summer childs. There is no way on this green earth that Chapek would have willingly stepped down when he was right on the verge of putting his plan into action. And there's also no way the board of directors would have broken his contract, incurring massive financial penalties unless some pretty powerful people convinced them that they had to do it.
Okay, we don't know why he stepped down. But what the fuck? Like, what are you implying? Like, what? Fucking, Bob Iger and, like, godhood at Disney said, fucking kneel to me and everybody kneeled to him? What?
And so, here we find ourselves right back where we started. If you think Bob Iger's here to fix things and get Disney back on track after years of mistakes, well, I got some bad news for you, my friend. He isn't, and he won't. He's the guy who created these fucking problems in the first place, so...
He's the one that made Disney about 40% of the movie market share. He's the one that made Disney fucking probably more successful than it's ever been in history, honestly. So, what's your argument?
You'll forgive me if I'm a little dubious about his ability or even his motivation to solve them. What he is a safe bet, a return to the status quo, a guy who won't rock the corporate boat or ask difficult questions or raise the dangerous thought that maybe, just maybe, people aren't buying what they're selling. Because what they're selling is shit. What all the...
But they're making money.
this comes down to is the desperation of a company trapped in a prison of its own making.
You don't really... Yeah, that's because his arguments are almost kind of just like, you know, it seems like he's just going for Bob Iger bad, Bob Chapek good, but like, if he liked Bob Chapek, like I said, if he liked Bob Chapek, like over the past 2 years, then he's liked what Disney's been doing, right? He likes the calls Bob Chapek's been doing, right? I haven't seen that from him, so I'm thinking he's just trying to rewrite history with this shit.
Afraid of its own employees, afraid of its shareholders, afraid of social media blowback, afraid of journalists ready to pounce on any sign of weakness, and afraid of activists ready and willing to destroy anyone who doesn't so.
I think it's crazy. Like, a lot of these guys like to talk like activists have like major fucking sway over these huge studios. They don't. They might be able to get a little bit of sway if they get enough public opinion behind them. That's about it. It's not like there's a secret group of activists. Is that maybe what he's trying to imply? That, like, there's a secret group of, like, like, LGBTQ rights activists that force Chapek out and Iger in? Is that what he's trying to imply? Because, no. That's definitely not what happened. If Chapek was kicked out, it wasn't because of activists. It was because of very, very rich men with lots and lots of money.
So the line, just ask Bob Chapek. So no, I don't expect that Bob Iger is some kind of messiah that's returned in Disney's hour of need to rescue the company. In fact, unless he's had a complete change of personality and worldview, I think his return is only going to accelerate the company's inevitable decline. Even worse, it's going to embolden the worst elements within the organisation, reassuring them that their future's secure and nobody is ever going to challenge them again. So if you think the stuff they're putting out right now is bad, well, just wait until you see what's coming over the next few years. But hey, it's gonna be
well, actually, over the next few years, we're gonna start seeing the stuff that was greenlit under Chapek. So yeah.
Fun to kick back with a beer and laugh at their fucking failure. Anyway, that's all I've got for today. Go away now.
Yeah. That was just... there wasn't even really a point to that. Just like Chapek bad,
one of the great things
whatever.
They think order and chaos are somehow opposites and try to control what won't.
Do you enjoy pain?
Pain don't hurt.